Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Price List Update Summary video series brought to you by Actionable Insights. You've got Harrison here, you've got Whatley there, and you've got Stone there. And hi, I'm back. What's up, guys? My wife and I had our first child in October a couple months ago. So the team here and we talked for a little bit about the new line items that were coming out in November and December and just decided, hey, let's put these recordings on pause while I'm fully invested in my baby and my wife. And then when I am back in January, we'll have a chance to catch up, put all of the content together in one nice, neat recording. Thank you, by the way, to anybody out there that reached out over the last month or two saying, hey, I didn't see the most recent Price List Update Summary videos. Everything okay? Are you guys alive? Yes, we are alive. So is my baby. And I'm very grateful for that. So looking forward to putting together. In this video, you will find what new line items were added to the Xactimate price list in November 2024, December 2024, and January 2025. We will also be highlighting some of the changes to the existing line items to the Xactimate price list. And as this video will likely be released within the next 7 days of us recording, when was that? We will be at the Verisk Elevate 2025 conference in the beginning of February. So whenever you're watching this, probably in the next few days, we will be at Elevate. We hope you are there as well in Salt Lake City. And if you are, we have a booth. We will be showing off everything that our actionable alerts and estimating guidance is doing today. If you'd like to learn more about the actionable profile or hosting our actionable alerts through your instance, such that every alert or every profile in Xactimate, doesn't matter which one you work in, you would be able to get our real-time estimating guidance to help you write better estimates from the beginning as you work. So I'm excited, Stone. You and I are going to be on stage speaking at Elevate Tuesday, 1 p.m. Mountain Time for our attendees out there, talking about XactExpert, insurance guidelines and compliances, and just how do we use the utilities in Xactimate to get to the best outcome the first time we write an estimate without days and weeks of back and forth. So very much looking forward to everything that the next couple of weeks has entail, but that's mostly our problem, not our audience's problem, and they want us to talk about the new line items. So let us jump right into it, and let's take a look at the new line items. New line items. Starting in November 2024, I have here two new line items in the SCF scaffolding category, PL and PLW. These are aluminum plank line items. And when you take a look at the description here, you'll see it says equipment costs for an aluminum plank, ladder and ladder jacks. This item is intended to be used for situations such as when ladders are supplied by the contractor, ladders, ladder jacks, and only an additional plank may be needed. Stone, can you think of an example in which an additional plank may be needed?
Yep, great example. If you are, say you're doing framing or you're doing drywall in new construction in a elevation change between first floor and second floor, like in a stairwell, you might have that plank to cross that gap so that your workers can work at height where you wouldn't need a ladder and jacks like you would doing exterior siding work.
Because I think in most scenarios, most contractors providing these series likely have ladders and ladder jacks and the planks that would go with it. But in those scenarios, if you need additional ones, or like here is a line item for additional aluminum planks per days, per weeks, that fall in line with the other existing line items in that category that you charge per day, per week, etc. All right. Those are the two new line items for November 2024. Let us jump to December, where we have two new line items in the DOR category around overhead doors, specifically cable only and torsion spring only. Now, Stone, I know you and I worked on a bunch of actionable alerts around overhead garage door estimating guidance, right? There's a lot of unique line items for garage doors that people can miss. So we want to make sure we have estimating guidance that whenever you're doing garage door work, we're going to provide you with, hey, don't forget about this. Oh, you might be making a mistake by including these two things. Where do you see these two new line items around cable only and torsion spring only fitting into kind of how do you estimate garage doors in Xactimate?
Exactly. This fills in the gap for repairs to garage doors. If you're not replacing the entire overhead door track and assembly, before you could replace a single panel, a single track, or even a couple of broken rollers, this gives us concessions for if you have that one single cable that snapped when you're doing the repair, it fills in that one gap. So you have all of the repair options if you are not trying to replace that entire assembly.
I like having options. Let's move to MeterMast.
Hold
There-
on. Let me
oh,
back up to
yeah, Whatley.
where those alerts are going to reside. Here's the deal. You don't talk about it that much because we often talk about, our actionable alerts will help identify when there's an opportunity to include a warranted line item. There will be rules associated with these two new line items such that if you include the overhead line items that include these components, be it the cable only or the torsion spring, that will fire an overage alert to remind the user that, hey, that is already included in the primary line item. Are you sure
Exactly.
you'd like to include it? And so this is the spirit of Actionable. It's to come down the middle and ensure that you can submit something to the carrier that can be approved without hesitation, while also including all the warranted line items. So there will be alerts for these two. They will just be of the omission, or really the overage variant.
And they are already in place.
Oh, nice work, Stone.
Love it. Okay. MeterMasts. We have two new MeterMast line items. You'll notice the left-facing sideways caret. Still don't know, less than sign. Okay, is that the official word you want me to use, Wally? MAST less than sign and MASTW less than sign. Now, taking a look at the line items that we did have already in Xactimate for MeterMasts, we had 2-inch conduit MeterMasts. So you can see the less than sign indicating smaller for these particular selectors. And specifically, you'll see in the line item description up to 1.5-inch conduit. What do you guys think is some of the best examples of uses of these? Wadley, what do you have for up to 1.5-inch conduit MeterMasts?
Yeah, if you look at the additional item information associated with these two line items, it states what, 150 amp panel.
Up to 150 amp service.
Yeah. So all residential I've seen is 200, 400 amp panels. What this would be is for additional structure. So think of like a barn or something of that nature. That's where you would see this applied. And so I think that the reason these line items were adopted is for a more rural environment where you've got other structures in play.
Makes sense. All right, the last new line item of December 2024, INS BTSW. It's an insulation line item for insulation support wire. Stone, your face lit up when you saw that this new line item was added to the price list. How does this affect you and your family? Insulation support wire.
Yep. So I'm from the Midwest. There are plenty of unfinished spaces, whether that's vertical walls in an unfinished storage area or even crawl spaces where you have bat insulation that is held up by those insulation support wires. As a technician, I've spent untold hours of my life in full PPE, either tearing that insulation and those support wires down or hanging new bat insulation and using those to keep it from falling out of the cavity. So this fits a niche where something was needed in the line item list.
Very nice. All right, gentlemen, that is November. That is December. Let us move to January. We have a few new line items, 6 specifically across 3 different categories. So we have a contents line items, HMR, hazardous material remediation line items, and WTR, water remediation line items around activities with or without third-party review. These are all $0 bid items, essentially, for CON POTNR for pack out without third-party review, or CON POTR for pack out with third-party review. Now, Whatley, what are your thoughts on some of these new with or without third-party review line items as an option?
I don't think these line items will be used that often, but occasionally in a managed repair environment, you might have a staff adjuster have you engage a third party, and they want to quickly be able to determine if those costs can be improved without additional scrutiny. And so if you're going to have a third party and they're going to review and approve that, then of course use your pack out with third party review. To the extent that a third party wouldn't be involved, then you would use the without variant. Here's the deal. You'll know when to use these line items. You will be told by your TPA, your managed repair channel, when it's appropriate to use these line items. If you are not in that managed repair ecosystem, you need to forget that these 6 line items exist.
Got it. That's, I think, a perfect way to explain, hey, what are these for? Well, if needed, they're there for you, but we don't see them being used every day. Now, 2 new fee line items as well, additional fee line items. There's a fee ALE, an additional living expenses bid item, as well as a fee loss, a loss assessment fee. Now, Stone, having you on our team is a pleasure because you just talked about your experience as a technician, but now I want you to talk about your experience as an adjuster. So how and why and when would a line item like fee ALE for additional living expenses be used inside of an Xactimate scope?
Absolutely. During my time as a residential property claims adjuster, if you have a large loss or you have a fire and your insureds are displaced, this is a great way to account for something like an advanced ALE payment. Here's $5,000 to get your family in a hotel and food for the week, or even in a more obvious case scenario, the LA fires. Whatley can attest to this. There are plenty of instances where adjusters are giving much larger advanced ALE payments just because of the catastrophic scenario that they're in.
Yep. I'm seeing $50,000 just straight away from some of the major national carriers for living expense. Here's 50 grand, and that will get you settled into another home or hotel, and we'll follow up with you accordingly, which I think is a good faith gesture. It's nice to see that the carriers are pushing capital through to their policyholders quickly here at the outset where they can.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. The majority of Team Actionable is in California, in San Diego, not far from a lot of this action. So obviously we're paying attention and doing what we can to provide some guidance to those out there going, what is happening? Whatley, you just put out a great video recently on your social medias about the LA wildfires that I would encourage everybody that's watching this to pay attention to what's about to happen in California because of this catastrophic loss that we haven't had an example like this since 1994, I believe, Whatley, is what you referenced, but 30 years.
Yeah,
they've even had the Fair Act respond, something like
the
1994,
30 years since assessments. And so one thing in that video Harrison called me out on, he's like, well, what the hell is an assessment? It's when a insurer of last resort, California Fair Plan in our case, can assess, so send a bill to a private carrier like Allstate or National General or Liberty Mutual or Nationwide, and those fees will be then passed through to the policyholder at the full discretion of that carrier. So an assessment means, boom, that's going to hit the carrier, and the carrier is going to potentially assess those individual policyholders. So if you watch that video, that's what I mean by assessment.
Beautifully said. And we've got some line items, guys, in the software now to help account for these costs if they come up as part of an Xactimate scope and claim. So love having options. Lastly, the last two line items that were added over the last 3 months, RFG, ARM, VN, and ARBM greater than sign. These are both tear off composition shingles line items, but with updated descriptions specific to the material type. So you now have a laminated laminated composition shingles, no haul off, and a high profile composition shingles, no haul off. Okay, gentlemen, that's it. That's the 17 new line items that were added over the last few months. Now, the other half of this video recording is always to talk about the changes. So let's go ahead and check out the changes for a bit. Checking out the changes. I'm going to do something that we don't normally do. Now, often, gentlemen, when we are going month to month, I'm preparing one ESX and I can build off the next one as we prepare all these examples. When you have 3 months of changes to cover, and the large majority of those are text/visual changes that we just need to talk through, then I felt like it would be warranted to go to the source. We are logged into the Verisk eService Center here, where you can find information on price list update changes. We always record these videos to add context and really words. You can always timestamp these videos and send them to each other as part of claims communications to talk about, these are new. Let's talk about how Actionable talked about them as how they're intended to be used. So that in mind,
when you say timestamp, I just want to clarify the best way to watch this video, although I feel very few people do, is getinsights.org, because what Harrison's team does is they go through and every time we talk about a specific line item, they hyperlink it, and then you can jump right to that aspect in the video. Not everybody has another 20 minutes to watch this video, but you probably have 1 minute and 30 to unpack the 1 or 2 line items that your team might care about. And so a lot of work goes into the production side to link those individual line items and then the timestamp associated with where we're unpacking that particular
to
line
give
item.
A quick example, if you are watching this on Facebook or LinkedIn or Insta and you're not sure how to access getinsights.org, right here under free resources, the #1 top resource is the Price List Update Summary. You can click on any of our videos, months to find information, come right below it. And if you want to learn more about the remove cement board line item, just click it and it will
jumps right there.
It will automatically load to the point on the video where we talk about that line item. So this industry needs time. save yourself.
Mhm.
We build the resources in the most efficient way we can for you guys to learn as
Exactly.
quickly as possible what you want to know. So thank you, Whatley, for highlighting the value and utility of our website. Okay. Constop. So CPS stop M, CPS constop M. They've modified the reference field just to exclude references that are not even applicable to that particular size container. So it's essentially removed language that was not relevant to the line item and that size container. We love. FNC close. So I thought this was actually worth putting together a quick example to show you that as of October, we did not have a remove activity for organized closet shelving. Now, as of, well, really November, but certainly January, there is now a remove activity for organized closet shelving removal. So
That's cool.
yeah, little small
So
things.
that means now there's remove and replace, and there wasn't before
Yep.
too.
I would imagine, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, there is. So
Cool.
yeah, kind of a 2-for-1. Haha. Remove and replace. Haha. Okay. Let's jump back to the text here. Okay. Some FLACT line item. They just clarified the definition that covers LED as well, right? We love, gentlemen, the additional item information of line items. It always provides more information to kind of clarify what does this truly
it's
mean.
just more than clarification. This is like evolution of how lighting systems are shipped. So
Yeah.
LEDs 10 years ago were really expensive,
Mhm.
right? And they weren't included in the fixture traditionally. And now that LEDs are lasting so long, they're so often actually worked into the fixture
built in.
themselves. So there was nothing deficient in the price list. It's just evolving over time because manufacturers are evolving over time.
Makes sense. We have some ORI categories. You don't always see the ornamental iron stuff get some action. So updated to reference powder coated or similar finish, which is nice there. This was another kind of sweeping one here in November. Was specifically they've updated the labor minimum groupings for paneling line items that are referenced here. I've prepared the example. You'll see if you were to look at a line item in an October 2024, a paneling line item that was called out, the minimum group used to be a PNL minimum group, which may trigger a bunch of erroneous labor minimums or things like that that could complicate the actual claims process. Now, the PNL line items, thankfully, are under the FNC finished carpentry, which, Stone, you were talking about how that typically generally makes sense. What was your commentary there?
Yeah. So I'm in the Midwest. A lot of circa 70s, 80s era homes were completely paneled on the inside. And yes, back then, you as a GC, you might have had a paneling contractor handle that. Nowadays, in our industry, your finished carpenter is probably replacing that one or two pieces of paneling to match when they're doing the other base trim, interior door units, etc. So this is, just as Whatley mentioned earlier, it's just an evolution of construction methodology.
Makes sense. All right. Lastly, okay, there was some moves in October and November, and so we just wanted to. It's not often that the pricing department puts a change like kind of like this with a big sentence, and it's not just a simple "we changed this." So I wanted to just quickly show off what this is, what it meant, and the numbers behind it. Modified all applicable roofing shingle per square line items by removing the separate rooftop delivery component. So if I were to pause for a moment and go to RFG 240 back in a October price list, you will see that there was a asphalt shingle delivery fee component here. If I go to a line item in November, boom, which you'll see here, RFG 240, that fee was removed. However, specifically, I should say, not the fee. I got to watch my words here. The component was removed. But you'll see that the unit price, I have October on the left, November on the right. The unit price did not change or go away. So even the component was removed. What verisk is explaining is that we have removed the individual component, but we have updated the component pricing associated with these items to be inclusive of that roof stock delivery. We will be working with different vendor workflows so they can appropriately account for this original change. Once this is complete, we will be adding this back into the price list as this will add additional clarity to the cost involved. So sometimes there's a change and visually you go, what changed? There was a component, now there's not. It's good to look at what was provided to us information wise. And we like doing the example here live on screen to show you guys, to back it up. Like component was there, component is not there currently. Pricing did not change because they've rolled that in accordingly. So it's nice to have this kind of open transparency as to here's what's going on and where things are going while we work towards getting to the most clarified point that we can. Okay, that's November. Let us quickly jump to December. 2 line item changes in December 2024, specifically around faucets, detach and reset, PLM FOW RS and PLM FOW with the R activity code. Now, it says detaching and resetting from existing supply lines would be included. Now, Whatley, Stone, what do you guys think about these updates and kind of some of the guidance that we've provided Actionable Insights, how we will be updating it? Whatley, why don't I start with you? I mean, you and I have trained for years that existing supply lines are sometimes difficult to work with when you're trying to reset something. And so how can we marry what we've talked about and trained towards with the updates to these line items?
All right. So what these two updates are attempting to communicate is that the labor associated with the detach and reset of supply lines is included. It's my position, seeing as a restorer how many times we detach a supply line and the rubber grommets associated with it, like it might be sealing and it might be just fine, but once
Until you touch it.
do you touch it, right, then the rubber grommet, like it's not going to stand up to a reset. So this is called consequential damages. And it also gets down to, you need to perform things in a workmanship type manner, at least in the state of California, when you are a licensed contractor. It's not terribly customary for any contractor to reset a supply line that shows any significant age. You're going at risk as a restorer to go ahead and reset that, and it's not wise to do that. And also, I think it exposes carriers to a lot of unreasonable amount of risk. I think
the risk of a secondary loss.
Yeah, the right thing to do is to replace the damn supply line. If the supply line is aged at all, the rubber grommet's aged at all, replace the supply line. So what would you do here? You would include the supply lines, but you would do it on a material basis because the labor is already included in the sync line items themselves. And I assume that Stone and his team will be guiding you towards using the supply line, but then updating the activity code from, say, plus to materials when it's augmented within the same room as these sync, detach, and reset line items.
I think one of the things, Wildly, we've always trained towards is transparency, documentation, and communication, right? Yes, we appreciate the communication of the cost to perform this activity would be included in the line item, but it is always going to be on contractor, materially invested parties or materially interested parties to have the conversation about what's possible based on the reality of the situation of like, it's there and I can't use it, or it's there and I can use it, but let's at least clarify what costs would be included.
I'll clarify. I'll be more direct. The dumbest hill to die on as a carrier is to not pay restorers for replacing supply lines. That is a very wise a thing to create space for. And you can tell that I'm like a bit emotional about it. It's really silly that carriers try to constrain costs there. It's bad for homeowners. It's bad for carriers. It's bad for restorers. It makes no sense. We're not talking about a material amount of money. Supply lines are probably 30% of what cause non-weather water losses anyhow. And if you touch those damn things and you put them back, they leak. They leak all the time. Okay? It's very real. I've seen it happen hundreds of times in my career. We had a policy, as much as carriers have policies, I think it's wise also for contractors to have policies. And the moment you touch a supply line, at least at my GC firm, is the moment that you replace that supply line with a new supply line. That was our policy. And we weren't doing that to drive up claim cost. We were doing that to perform the work in a workmanship type manner.
And I think that's the background that people want Actionable to be approaching these kinds of conversations with, of the reality of the situation. And it's nice to have the clarity from Xactimate, at least of what's included in that line item or not. And then we can go from there. We're not fighting over what's included or what's not.
The very last thing you want as a contractor walking out that door after you finish things is to have that old supply line pop and boom, that 3,000 square foot continuous flooring system is toast and you start all over.
Start over. Okay. Those are the changes for December. Gentlemen, we're not done yet. One more month. We've got January. All right, very quickly here. We've got a slew of RFG line items that are with include hauling, had their descriptions updated. Just to point to the counter line item that if you don't need hauling, if it's a no haul off version, use this line item. So I always love it when the additional item information points to me, the similar line item, right? Kind of like the similar search versus related search and things like that. The other 3 changes in January were also in the RFG. RFG ASTR. This is the asphalt / starter strip, which I think you'll be able to see here. Swing. Wait, where did I put it?
Did you just say swing?
I did say swing. Do you not like swing? I like swing.
Rock
Swing
on.
bada. I mean, I'm a baseball guy. We got pitchers and catchers starting up again, baby. It's season time. Go Padres. Woo, here we go. If anybody's a Padres, or sorry, I shouldn't even say if anybody's a Padres. If you're a baseball fan, let me know in the comments. Let's have some fun this year. The Dodgers signed every major free agent, so let's at least have some fun this year. So you can see asphalt starter peel and stick here. Okay, the price in October was around $324 here. You can see here it's now $287, and specifically those changes come from a change in the productivity, the yield, the direct yield of the roofing laborer. Productivity has gone up. If something becomes easier to do, the cost goes down. So productivity up, the component price goes down, and that is where that information comes from. Anytime yields are updated in Xactimate, it's good to be aware and pay attention and be able to provide pricing feedback on a regular basis to the pricing department around pricing, productivity, things like that. So we like to see those kinds of changes. And then let's see here under January 2025, RFG, WB, and WBHT have modified their replace definitions to just reference underlayment. All right, gentlemen, that's it. That's the slew of changes, 17 new line items, dozens of changes to existing line items in Xactimate. But let us not forget where we finish these episodes, and let's take a moment to look forward to the future.
Forward to the future.
Every month, Xactimate gives us a little preview of new line items, what might be coming next in February and March and April, okay? We should be seeing adding items for Metal Valley in the MTL category, adding items for dimensional cleaning in the TCR category, cooling units in the TMP temporary category, and the winterization of homes in the TMP category. Wow, you just did an audible,
this TMP. So I get this question a lot on Ninjas every year, like, hey, how do I charge for the temporary air conditioning unit? A lot of times in a commercial environment, you want to still keep that business up and running, and you got to bring in commercial, a temporary cooling units, and now it's within the TMP category, or will be soon. That is exciting. I like that one in particular.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, all of you insiders, for watching, subscribing, checking out, and using the Actionable profile and our Actionable alerts to, write better estimates in Xactimate every time you're working. Please be sure to like, share, subscribe, send this video, and let everybody know that the price list changes for November, December, and January are available. And starting next month in February, we will resume our normal production cycle. You'll see our rapid rundown version at the beginning of the week. I'll probably have something out before Elevate, or maybe while we are at Elevate, a little rapid rundown of the new price lists, new line items. And if you are going to be in Salt Lake City in the beginning of February for Verisk Elevate 2025, say hi. We'll be in all the different galleries and speaking on Tuesday at 1 p.m. Mountain. Thank you.
Keep building.
Don't stop learning and growing, guys.